Hey everybody, we are back again with another Nintendo Pipeline podcast episode for you. You haven't gotten rid of us yet. Uh, First off, I'm CMM, or you can call me Clay.
I'm Jared, and also I'm One Up Muffin on the Discords.
And today we got a special guest who is...
I'm Gartooth, but you may call me Steve.
Alright, sweet. So today is all about Game Boy Advance, because Game Boy Advance recently passed its 20th anniversary, and we thought it'd be fun to just talk about some of our favorite games. As you all know, there was the original model of GBA, the SP, which was super popular, and the not so popular Micro. GBA had tons of fun accessories and cool stuff, but today is going to be all about just GBA games. So with that, I raise you Rhythm Tengoku. Does anyone else play this besides me?
I have not.
For the people in the United States, what is Rhythm Tengoku who have not heard of this?
Oh, right. It's Rhythm Heaven.
Yeah, this is the original Rhythm Heaven game, which was not released in America.
Yeah, and it is a delight. If you like Rhythm Heaven since and you haven't played the original, it's pretty translator or pretty language friendly.
Yeah, most of the games don't need much English, and they're really fun. I've only played it a little bit on an emulator because I have not imported the cartridge, but it's a very fun game.
Yeah, it's so charming, and you'll notice if you've played the later ones that some of the games from the first one have been remade or redone on some of the sequels. But it's so wonderful, and I just wanted to mention it off the bat because it birthed that wonderful series, and highly would recommend if you haven't tried the original to go back and maybe see if you can import it. I was lucky enough years ago that I had found one for a decent price that was like boxed and complete, and
Oh wow.
Japanese GBA boxes are so cute.
Oh, wow.
I love them.
There's a really cute song on there. It might be one of my favorite songs in the Rhythm Heaven franchise. It's like something Pon Pon, but it's like a spoken song, and I like that one a lot. I wish I knew the full name of it.
It's if you're familiar with the later Rhythm Heaven games, you pretty much know what to expect here, but it's a mix of some stuff. A lot of the stuff is just like music only, but there are like vocal tracks and stuff like that, and the game is just oozing with charm. It's like Warioware meets a rhythm game, sort of, because it's not like you're doing it in 5 seconds, but like it's got that energy, if that makes sense.
So something I wonder about that on the GBA, the GBA is kind of known for its sound chip. How does Rhythm Heaven or Rhythm Tengoku sound? Does it really stand out, or kind of work with the hardware?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you're familiar with the sound that WarioWare has, where it's kind of this weird offbeat thing and it just kind of works.
Yeah, they make it work really well.
Yeah, it works.
They use the
obviously,
hardware to its advantage.
Yeah, the sequels, of course, being on more capable hardware, sound better, but like considering GBA limitations, I think it sounds lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, headphones, unless you have an SP, in which case you need an adapter.
Oh, does that not have a headphone jack?
It does not.
It does not.
Oh wow, not even on the second model of it?
Nope.
Wow. Huh.
Yep, there's a headphone jack like dongle that you can use, and there's even headphones that plug directly into the charge port.
I never even noticed that. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, that's my Rhythm Tengoku thing. Anyone else wanna?
And well, you mentioned a game that would make a great transition.
Yes.
So I would love to, I'm gonna skip past the first one and go right to my favorite game, maybe of all time, WarioWare Twisted.
Oh man.
For people who don't know, it's a bigger Game Boy Advance cartridge because it has a rumble pack and gyro in the cartridge itself. And it's like a series of 5-second mini games, and has some regular bigger mini games, but WarioWare is just magical.
Yeah, I think I hope most people who listen are at least somewhat familiar with WarioWare, but this game is just magic. I spent a lot of time getting all the silly like gashapon
Yeah,
toy
I got every
things.
single thing, and there's the mini games are genuinely fun. Like they're so replayable. There's like there's like 2 or 3 mini golf courses where you swing your Game Boy Advance back and forth to putt the ball, and it feels great.
Metroid, don't forget Metroid.
Metroid's great.
Metroid is great.
You're a little cat, and a cat that's laying on its back, and you shoot at like little alien bugs, and to roll around you like spin your DS hard.
That
then you, like,
cat
roll
knows how
across
to
the
roll.
And for a game,
The Excite Bike one, too.
yeah,
That mini game.
and for a game that had
Yeah, exactly.
a special pack to do the motion controls, for something like Wario, where you need something really responsive so you can act with fast reflexes, and that thing was really responsive with Twisted.
Yeah.
It was incredibly
it,
impressive.
it works great. It has this nice little click too with the combination of the rumble.
Yes.
So it's very
satisfying.
tactile.
Even the menus are entirely gyro and rotational based, and they're kind of fun just to roll around in.
Yeah, isn't there isn't one of the bosses is Mario 1?
Yes.
Oh,
You play Mario 1 except it's on a circle.
Yeah.
Like it's on
Yeah.
like a how would you describe that? But to move Mario, you twist the
Yeah.
console.
It's like,
The whole like level rotates.
right, so you uncover more of the level as you rotate around. So it's like the moon boss from Yoshi's Island, where you're running around
Yeah.
a circle, but
Yeah.
the level keeps going and going.
Yeah, that was a fun one. There's a lot of really memorable micro games in that. I know the one with like you're flying an airplane and you have to fly in between 2 buildings or like walls or something.
Oh yeah, and you twist it kind of like those like Wipeout, like make it into like the shapes or not Wipeout.
Oh yeah, like hole in the wall.
Yeah, like hole in the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some really good stuff because all the micro games in this are categorized by like type of movement. It's like, one of them is like small movements, one of them's like big sweeping motions, and then I think Cat and Anna are like button only.
Yeah, there's button only ones, and there's also some of the best parts of any WarioWare game is when you beat the main story, you unlock like random towers that give you mini games from like all over the place.
Yes.
So I love those. So it'll give you like a combination of any mini games, and you just try to beat as many as you can. It's
And-
so addictive.
This one actually had a unique thing where there were those stopwatch levels. I forget exactly. It's like if you win the micro game, you get more time.
Yeah, the fast. So
Oh.
you don't have the typical amount of time for a micro game. You have more time to complete them, but the faster you complete them, the more time you get back.
Yeah.
It's very tense and very fun.
Yeah, it's like the scary Wario stopwatch thing.
Oh, wow. I completely forgot about that one, but that sounds like an awesome kind of feature to challenge, challenge your response time.
Now, if I remember correctly, was this the one that Europe just didn't get?
I think
Yes,
so.
sadly they did not get this game, and I feel so bad. I wish they would port it to like the Switch eShop, or even if they would have brought it to the 3DS because that had a gyroscope in it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Europe, you haven't had the chance to play WarioWare Twisted. It's very much worth the import.
Definitely, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I can just go back to it almost any time.
Yeah, and similarly for me, the original fits that as well. That game, I think, is probably the game that has spent the most time in my GBA, and I believe to this date, it is the only game that I've taken in and out of my GBA so many times that like part of the label started to wear. Like I've never had that happen with a game before, but I was so addicted to the original WarioWare. It was like digital crack to me. Is exactly what that game was. Twisted is, similar, but the original one holds a special place for me as well. Like that whole series is just wonderful, and I'm glad that honestly probably 2 of the best entries of it are on.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the first game I thought I would have. I'll make this really quick, But when I was a kid, I thought I would have hated the game because it was like I was like little mini games that are 5 seconds. That sounds so like not fun. And then I bought it used one day. It was pretty cheap at like a GameSpot or GameStop. Bought it and absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah, and like also just the zany like characters and story. I mean, there's no way for me to ever forget Dr. Krieger's flooding toilet. Krieger, I called him Krieger, but flooding toilet game or predicament and all those weird, obviously you have the nose picking mini games, but then there was like that, like I think Dribble and Spitz's boss mini game was like the shooter.
Oh, the nose picker
there's so
shooter.
Much.
Yeah.
Well, no. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
The nose picker shooter was in one of them. But there was also just like a regular, like it's a pretty standard shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty fun shoot 'em up.
And the music is so good in Warioware. Like.
Oh yeah, the Dribble and Spitz music, I love that song.
And
that
like
taxi song.
And all the vocal tracks and everything, like it's so good.
It has like this great, like, I don't know if it's like a warble, but it's got like this such a GBA vibe.
Yeah, it has a very GBA vibe. It kind of sounds like if you were to like a radio, but like much lower quality. Like that level.
And I think just as a game, it's really impressive how they can, without even teaching someone what the controls are, they just give you a verb and then they give you a visual, and it's like shave or jump or avoid, and immediately you can know how to play the game, whether it's just using a D-pad or a button or twisting your GBA. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest achievements, because without that, WarioWare just wouldn't work.
Yeah,
it's so intuitive.
Yeah, and something I think that maybe is kind of lost a little bit now, to a point, is that when I first got WarioWare and even some of its sequels, a lot of the fun initially is just figuring out what on earth to do with the minigames. And then it's interesting how, even though they're these 5-second bite-sized things, and then once you figure them out, you figure them out, it's interesting how they still manage to be so much fun on replay. Like, the game does a very good job at that.
And they just keep getting faster and faster the more you go, too.
Yeah, like the endless and like remix modes are so much fun. It's, like I said, digital crack. That's what that series is. With that being said, let's move on from WarioWare. Gar, was there anything that you thought of that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so this may be a good transition, but let's talk about the other Wario game, Wario Land 4. This was my first foray into a Wario video game, and I have to say there are some things that I'm really impressed by going back to it a couple days ago. One of them is when you get to the end of a level, you have to trigger a countdown timer to get back to the portal where you started the level in. And I thought this was a really cool idea to add some tension to a level, because when you're going to the frog clock thing, you're kind of learning the level layouts and you're getting familiar with it and how the design of that level works out. Like, one level might be Wario is in a pinball table or some other kind of crazy concept. And then once that clock starts going, it's kind of like, okay, I need to get whatever remaining gem pieces are left. I need to grab the key and I need to hightail it back to the portal before it closes. And it kind of gives off a kind of like a Metroid vibe, kind of like the escape sequences in those games, but this time it's contained to every level of Wario Land. And I thought that was a really cool and unique thing that you don't really see a platformer do.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Shake It ended up taking this as well from Wario Land 4, and it was very interesting mechanic there. And then also, can we just talk about how Wario Land 4 is freaking gorgeous?
Oh yeah,
the visuals are so good. I still think about like that first little plum boss you fight.
Yeah,
it's a great looking little angry plum.
Yeah, and as you damage them, they get like angrier and more deranged looking.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Every boss in that game is deranged, I swear to God.
I think for the timer thing, real quick, it's a really smart mechanic because not only is it like fun to rush back through the level, but it's also a great way to lengthen the stages without making it feel like they're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and certain stuff changes too. Like once you hit that, frog timer thing, like certain blocks like switch. So
Yeah.
the route back isn't identical to the route.
They block
forward.
off some things to like throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, not to mention too. I know with the general structure of that game, not only are you looking to actually finish the levels, but you need those those like chunks of diamonds. I don't know how to describe them. They're like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
square.
Yeah,
split
four
in four.
pieces of a
Was
diamond.
that the disc or is that something else?
That's something else.
No,
I'm talking just the. You need them to get to be able to access the boss.
right.
Yep.
You need a complete diamond from each level in a world to access the boss.
Yeah. So like you also had to do some exploring and looking around as well. And something fun that I didn't know until recently. So there's multiple difficulties in Wario Land or in Wario Land 4, I mean, and they actually all change the location of those.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you are
I should
playing
do that
Wario
again.
Land on hard, the diamond locations are different. If you're playing on S hard, good freaking luck because the game is extremely difficult.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. It's also notable because that's one of the only Nintendo platformers that are original to the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to some of the ports and stuff later, but Wario Land 4 is one of the few new Nintendo platformers on there, and also is probably a good time to talk about Metroid Fusion as well and Zero Mission, because Wario Land 4, the engine for Metroid Fusion is the Wario Land 4 engine.
Oh wow, I didn't know
incidentally.
that. That's great.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I mean, yeah, I know Gar in particular has things to say about Metroid.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of have the, I would say not the kind of mainstream opinion where usually Super Metroid and Metroid Prime are considered the two pinnacles of the franchise, and I think on some level they definitely deserve that title, but for me, my favorite Metroids were the GBA ones, particularly Zero Mission. Just because it took what was great about Super Metroid, and to me, it just made moving Samus way more fun. She feels more agile and speedier and less floaty. She can grab ledges in these, and just in general, it was something that would stick in my GBA, and just I would think, I was like, how do I get to that missile tank? It's been bothering me all day, or how does this speed boost puzzle work? And yeah, it's just a really great game of discovery, and I think Fusion in particular has something interesting where it kind of plays with your expectations of how the older Metroids works and uses that against you. For instance, in the game, usually in Metroid, when you kill an enemy, it drops static ammo or energy, and you can just pick it up at your leisure. But in Fusion, since your drops are all the X parasites, what will happen is if you don't pick those up right away, they'll reform with other X parasites and respawn an enemy. So it becomes a game of like, I gotta kill this right away, and then I gotta jump right into this thing and absorb it, or else it's gonna come back. So
Wow.
Yeah, and that game in particular, Fusion, changed how missiles worked as well.
Oh yeah.
Typically you had, missile, super missile, whatever, and they were separate. And this, it's kind of like the beams also, the missile upgrades stack, and eventually you get this like charging ice diffusion missile thing.
Right. So if you charge it, you can turn a standard ice missile into a kind of like an area of an effect. So the missile explodes, and then you just see this kind of like big snowflake effect swirl around and engulf anything in it. So yeah, I think the game does a very good job of making you feel weak when you need to, and making you feel powerful when you need to. like such as with the SAX stalking you, and then you realize like I've upgraded Samus this far, and even then this thing is going to chase me and kill me in 2 shots with its ice beam. So
yeah, and that is when those sequences pop up, it is legitimately terrifying because like you get smacked twice and you're dead basically. To speak a bit on Zero Mission, I know for me it's interesting. So Metroid is not typically a game I think of as a comfort game, but Zero Mission, at least on the standard difficulty, kind of fulfills this for me, where it's like this, you can play it and go through it very quickly, but it's so satisfying. And yeah, like what you were saying about the movement and stuff, like they definitely, the controls improved on the GBA, interestingly enough, despite the limited buttons. Like it feels like they just got more focused. The Super Metroid has a run button, it has the cancel button, it has, you know, normal jumping and shooting and your diagonal buttons and, you know, select between your different weapons. The GBA Metroid games are like, you know, they're much simpler, so it's like instead of having to like, you know, press select to like move to a different weapon, a lot of the time it's like the weapons just stack, so you just are holding
it
R.
feels smarter with the weapons.
Yeah, and like there's no run button, but when you move generally faster, and then, you know, when you run far enough, that's when the speed booster and stuff will activate. Just feels better.
So much better. I mean, I played Super Metroid last year, and like it's still a good game, and like I understand why it's so important, but I think Zero Mission is just so much more fun, and it's definitely like Gartooth. It's my favorite Metroid game by far. I still need to beat Fusion. I liked what I played so far, but Zero Mission just has great controls, great visuals.
Yeah, those comic book style
fun to play.
Oh yeah,
that comic book style cutscenes and artwork is really fun.
Yeah, that aesthetic is beautiful. It's something that I kind of wish we would see at least once again in a Metroid title. But I think I always go back to with Zero Mission that to me it's the perfect remake because it embraces, so like I could never get into NES Metroid, and I've tried a couple times, but I just can't with password saves and Samus not being able to crouch and shoot someone that's right underneath her. So that Zero Mission exists, and it essentially gives me that game, but it brings it up to kind of a modern standard of play, and even then it surprises you with certain things such as the epilogue that weren't in the original Metroid. Yep. To me, I just think it's really the perfect remake. That it's undeniably the original Metroid when you look at it and you compare it side by side, but the quality of play is just on a completely different level.
Yeah, and it manages to kind of stand alone too as its own. Like it is a remake, but like I feel like it's like you can play both Metroid 1 and Zero Mission and like them both and get completely different experiences from both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond Metroid, I know obviously Pokemon's a big thing on GBA. I know some of y'all had some Pokemon stuff to talk about. I don't, because I don't really do Pokemon.
I do not either, except to say Pokemon Pinball 2 is great, but that's it.
Yeah, Pokemon Pinball is awesome. I don't know, if you had more to say about Pokemon in general.
I didn't have too much to say, except for that I thought I think that really Gen 3 was kind of a big departure. It seems like from Generations 1 and 2 at least, it kind of moved the series forward in a couple different ways. It had a really, really unique look to it. Like, when I first saw the Pokemon designs in that game, I was like, this doesn't look anything like Pokemon. Like, what are these legendaries looking like? They feel so, like, kind of alien and strange. But really, to me, this is like one of the classic kind of generations where it's something that you won't really forget playing it. Like, even if there's 100 water routes to go on. It's just kind of, going underneath into the caverns to go to Sutopolis, or dealing with Team Magma and Aqua going into their lair. It's definitely a game that stuck with me, and especially the trumpets. You can't forget that music. So.
Yeah, that is the meme about Gen 3 Pokemon, is that the trumpets are blazing, are blaring rather. Same thing. Yeah, and on that note, there's Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And then there are the Fire Red and Leaf Green, which are Gen 1 remakes that also feature support for the GBA wireless adapter, which is kind of fun. Not many games support that. But there are a lot of different RPGs on the GBA, including Mega Man Battle Network.
Oh yeah, so this was actually my my first exposure to Mega Man was I think I started with either Battle Network 3 or 5, and then there was also the anime airing at the time. I think it was called NT Warrior, but I was just like, this game looks so cool. You play as this guy who it's basically a grid-based, card-based battle system where how you stack your deck kind of changes what your game plan's going to be, and you can later fuse Mega Man with the other different robot masters to or navies or whatever they're called, to unlock different powers. And just the duality of playing, it's like, okay, I can sit back and relax. I'm playing as Lan right now in the overworld, and there's it's kind of like that chill time, and then you go back into the digital world, and then you're playing as Mega Man and trying to figure out how to get past these labyrinths and all these different boss encounters. And to me, there's really nothing else like it.
Yeah, it's so clever. You pretty much like plug in like you're in the Matrix, and plugging in like different locations in the overworld brings you to different locations in the digital world, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely like the overworld is safe, and then cyberspace or whatever is they're basically the underworld or like dungeons of that game. And so the way that it's interesting, the way that you have to navigate the overworld to find places to jump into cyberspace. So there's kind of that weird that element going on to it. Like the first mission in the first game was like the stove goes crazy.
Yeah, you jump into a microwave to kill a virus or something like that.
And for me, I'm not someone who really digs RPGs, but Battle Network I enjoyed a lot because the combat system was so much fun. You have your normal weapons, and you equip cards that you can use that are special weapons that you find as you go through, and you get some from defeating bosses, and then there's a timer basically until you can get more. But it's like this action grid combat system, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like a deck builder before deck builders were a big thing.
Yeah, actually,
so you build your like chip deck, and then like you get like a choice between like 3 attacks at a time, right?
I want to say it's like you can have 3,
and then once you use an attack, that goes back in your deck, and another chip.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you have like limited uses of these chips when you have them.
And since it's a grid, different ones will do like AoE grid attacks. Some will be like ranged, like they'll like fire upwards, kind of like a grenade.
Right. Yeah,
it's extremely clever, and I really hope the series comes back someday.
Yeah. I primarily experienced it through the first one. I should probably try some of the other ones. One little oddity I'd like to mention is there is an accessory, I believe in Japan only. The only reason I know of it is because a friend of mine has it. That is it's a battle chip like scanner thing. So you were actually able to buy battle chips, right? And use this thing to scan them to activate them in game.
That's awesome.
Oh wow!
And it's real weird. I'd have to look more into it to remember exactly, but that was the basic like premise, and it's so strange and so weird, and obviously Japan only. So
I wonder if someone's like made like a board game with like the Battle Network style combat, because I could imagine that being really fun.
I could see that working in a turn-based format.
Yeah, like a turn-based one. I'm gonna look that up later.
Fun. I know there's that newer game. What was it? Eden, something Eden.
Yeah, something Eden.
What is it?
Something Eden. I don't know the title
Yeah,
better than that.
my brain's failing me, but that has the combat system of
Yeah.
Battle Network essentially, where it's that grid-based action
Combined with
combat.
like a roguelike. It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah. So if you guys want to try Battle Network and maybe don't have a GBA or for some reason are stinky and don't want to play GBA games, that is, I think it's one step from Eden. Now that I think about it.
You got it.
Yeah, one step from Eden. You can try that. And that wasn't the only RPG that was big on.
Let's talk about it.
GBA.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the beginning of that whole Mario and Luigi series. Everyone's got stuff to say about that. I'll let you go, Muffin.
It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time. I don't play many RPGs. I mostly play ones with the word Super Mario in the title.
Same.
But this one it's so funny. The action battle system is really fun. The world is fun to explore. The characters, it has so much character. Like there's just so much personality. Who's the evil bean man?
Fawful?
Fawful.
Yeah, Fawful.
Fawful is very funny, and it's just a overall great game. I need to play it again.
Yeah, that one is special because it creates the Bean Bean Kingdom, which later Mario and Luigi games I feel didn't do the world's creation element as well as the first one did, where it's just this new area that's really cool and well defined. The music's great. The combat is important to me because I don't typically like RPG games because I usually don't like their combat, but it has this it's an action-based combat like other Mario RPGs, and it's super fun. You have like the co-op attacks, you have the standard attacks, there's the timing elements, there's the overworld stuff.
I just remembered about the A and B thing.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Mario is always your A button, and Luigi's always your B button, if I have that correct.
Yeah.
So when you want to defend as Mario, you have to press the A button. When you want to defend as Luigi, you have to press the B button. And there's also cool ways they use that in the overworld too.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's just something that you like instantly remember because the bosses will sometimes have unique attacks that you kind of gotta counterattack. I think one of them was something like a fire bar would swing around, and you would need to have Luigi jump over it when it got underneath him, and then Mario jump over it when it got to him, and just kind of like that quick reflex. Like the game does a really good job of programming kind of into your brain like what to do without even thinking about it. Now that they assign Mario and Luigi to essentially two different buttons.
Yeah, it's interesting how that plays out, and it's so compelling. Like talking about it's like, oh, whatever, but like playing it, it's just like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
It makes RPG like I don't mind RPG combat, but it really makes it really accessible and fun to someone who's not into turn-based battles.
Yeah. And for me, like, yeah, I don't typically enjoy traditional turn-based, but turn-based with action elements, I'm definitely more engaged and interested. So that game is very special to me as well.
I think one other thing about that game that really stands out to me is how fun the character antics are in that game. Like, the amount of scenarios that they figure out for the Mario cast is absolutely insane. You have Bowser losing his amnesia and being a goon to some thief. You have Luigi dressing up as Princess Peach for a decoy for the villains. It's just absolutely hilarious. And hearing the Mario Brothers just speak their gibberish to like all these situations and their animations is it's so incredible.
Not to mention the beginning part where Peach's voice is replaced with freaking bombs, basically. It's like she speaks and it explodes. Like, it's so strange. So on that note, we're pretty far into this now, so I'd like to propose a sort of lightning round of games. If there's anything that we haven't talked about yet that you guys would like to bring up, I'm going to start mine with Pinball of the Dead. If you like House of the Dead 2 and you like Devil's Crush, that is those two games together. There are 3 boards and there's bosses from House of the Dead 2. Great game.
I think we should do a brief spotlight like a mini one, because they're just NES games and SNES games. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the Mario Advance quadruple. What's that called?
Quadrilogy? Is that
Quadrilogy? Sure.
Is that the word for it? Yeah.
That was my first experience playing some of those games. So I had never played Mario World before. I never played Yoshi's Island. So this was my introduction to three great Mario games and Mario 2. But I love that whole collection for introducing me to those fantastic games.
And
Especially
the new version of Mario Bros. That was included in each of those, and in Mario and Luigi. Actually.
Yes, and Mario and Luigi. I wanted to point that out.
5 opportunities to play Mario Bros. For you on the GBA.
5 opportunities to play Mario Bros. A better version of Mario Bros. Than the original one.
Yeah,
it's based off the Super Mario Advance physics.
And it's worth mentioning too that this version of Mario Bros. You can play multiplayer with only one copy, I believe. It is one of the few GBA games. I know Mario Kart Super Circuit does have a one kart multiplayer mode as well, but if I remember correctly, Mario Bros. Has the one kart multiplayer thing going on.
And Mario 3 has extra levels that you scan e-reader cards to get.
And Mario Advance 1 is my personal favorite due to a lot of weird stuff in it, particularly Birdo talking is just
I like
special.
Birdo talking.
Yeah, Birdo talking.
Some people hate the voices.
Yeah.
I do not mind the voices. I think they're fun.
It definitely depends for me, but I think Mario Advance 1 is my favorite use of the voices. And it also has those advance coins hidden in the stages as well as another little neat thing.
Yeah, Mario Advance's voice acting, it's kind of like a funny little time capsule when Nintendo was still kind of figuring out voices for the Mario series, kind of similar to Sunshine. And just the quotes in that game, I don't know if they were intended to be corny and like hilarious, but they absolutely feel that way to me. In that, I kind of wish that version of Super Mario Brothers 2 was available more often, just to hear like Birdo say, "This is as far as you'll go," or other like weird
this is
dialogue.
As far as you'll go.
Wart's dialogue is very good too. It's like it's stupid. It's great. Beyond the Mario Advance games, we also have Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is basically a sequel to DK94 on the regular Game Boy. Fantastic game, single screen action puzzler. DK King of Swing, which is Clue Clue Land with Donkey Kong, highly recommended.
It's better than Clue Clue Land. Let's not. Come on.
I mean that's the basic impetus of it. It's obviously greatly expanded.
Isn't the Clue Clue Land character even a unlockable in that game?
Yes.
Bubbles.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. That is correct. I believe Bubbles.
Yeah.
Bubbles
that sounds right.
Yeah. We had stuff like Drill Dozer from Game Freak in between all the Pokemon stuff. That had a rumble feature as well. Great action platformer. There's so much. I mean, Sonic Advance 1, which to me was like Sonic 4 for so long.
Let's talk about Sonic Advance 1.
Yeah, let's go into it.
Yeah, great game.
That's one of the better Sonic games. It's really fun. It's got a little bit of that Toad, a little bit of that new Sonic Toad. Sonic Grinds on rails, which is fun.
Yeah, it's funny, I barely ever used the rails in that game. But the sprite work was very nice. The characters, had their unique powers, and it adds Amy, and Amy has a unique playstyle. And that was by Dimps. So like after they did Sonic Pocket Adventure on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. So
also a good game.
Cool game. And it has a tiny Chow Garden if you like Chow. There's that. There's also Crash. Can't forget Crash as the other. They had a few 2D Crash games. I played the first one in particular, and it's actually pretty fun. If you took Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped and turned it into a 2D game, that's pretty much Crash Huge Adventure. You can get it for pretty cheap. I know, Muffin, you had something to say about some Castlevania stuff.
Oh, I just wanted to highlight Aria of Sorrow for a second. That was my first in the like Symphony of the Night style Castlevanias. It's basically just Symphony of the Night on the go. So if you played that one, it might seem a little bit the same, but I didn't play that one, so this game was fantastic for me.
Yeah, and people do say that Aria of Sorrow is one of the better. I mean, they're all pretty good, but like one of the better, like Metroidvania style Castlevania games. I had Circle of the Moon, and I completely sucked at Circle of the Moon. That game is difficult, but also recommended.
Aria of Sorrow is just so much prettier.
It is pretty.
So it looks like a Super Nintendo game. It looks great.
You can get Kururin on your GBA if you import it. If you're not, or if you're in the US, that is the rotating stick maze game. I'll leave it at that. Hopefully that gets you your interest peaked. You'll remember the character in Brawl as an assist trophy, the little rotating helicopter thing. And I mean, there's so much on Game Boy Advance. We can be here for like literal hours.
Gartooth, did you have any other last things you wanted to mention?
Yeah.
I think you had some things to say about Sonic Advance too.
Yeah,
Sonic Advance 1. Sorry.
I think Sonic Advance. I just wanted to say I think it's interesting that that I didn't hate it, in that you would think that Sonic, a game that's kind of like fast paced, and especially on the GBA where the screen's kind of small, like how much you can view, you think you would be like running into traps all the time or enemies. But I think that first one stands up remarkably in the for the hardware it was made for, and it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the first Sonic game we had on a Nintendo platform.
Yeah, it was that and Sonic Adventure 2 were pretty like they're pretty close together. I remember I had that versus guide that was like both of those games. So there was that. There were other great third-party games too. Anyone who hasn't played Dragon Ball Advance Adventure, I don't even like that Dragon Ball, but that game is a fun beat 'em up. So much good stuff. And then I guess the one last thing we would like to touch on, because it is such a big part of the Game Boy Advance library, there are a lot of ports from Super Nintendo and, actually particularly Super Nintendo. We talked about the Mario Advance series already, but were there any others that anyone wanted to bring up? So I know, like...
I think Kirby was mentioned in the pre-show. It's kind of like a port remake.
Right.
Yeah.
Nightmare in Dreamland.
Yeah, Nightmare in Dreamland.
Yeah, I that was my first time playing Kirby's Adventure, so I have pretty good memories of that one. I think, didn't that also have a playable Meta Knight in that?
It did. Meta Knight was an extra campaign. You couldn't save, so you had to play the whole game through.
Yeah, I believe that's the first
Meta Knight's Adventure.
Meta Nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that. Was my first time playing Kirby Adventure as well, and I really like that game. I have a very soft spot in my heart for it.
And that was the first playable Meta Knight, right?
I think
so, actually.
Unless,
and yeah, that mode is great fun as well. I love remix modes in games. And speaking of remix modes, another SNES port that I still haven't gotten around to playing yet, Super Ghouls and Ghosts has a full-on arrange mode with like branching paths and stuff. Not too dissimilar from Resurrection that came out recently. A lot of these ports did add some interesting stuff to their games. Like we talked about the stuff that some of the Mario Advance games added, but the arrange mode from Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and like the Donkey Kong Country trilogy ports. I know like Donkey Kong Country 2 had like an extra boss. There was definitely like mini games and stuff in each of those. Donkey Kong Country 3 on Game Boy Advance had a new soundtrack. Like
there's Four Swords mode, the multiplayer mode in Link to the Past.
Yes, yep, Link to the Past. On top of the hia hia hia, there was also Four Swords as a bonus. There were, I think we mentioned it earlier, but the classic NES series, just great way for a lot of people who may have missed those games to play everything from, Zelda 2 and Xevious all the way to, I think there was Castlevania and like there was a lot. I know other territories got Murasame Castle, which I was jealous about. But there are so many games on the GBA that are ports or remakes of older titles. I know that are just significant for a lot of people, so I felt like it wouldn't be fair to not mention those as we sort of wrap things up here.
Definitely. At some points, it felt like a mini SNES.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No, definitely not a bad thing. It definitely expanded the catalog of games. I mean, even like Magical Quest got a GBA version, didn't it? The Mickey Mouse game. But yeah, so I guess right before we end here, were there any last thoughts that anyone had on Game Boy Advance?
Yeah, so I think it's just talking with you guys about this. It's kind of crazy how many games came out on the Game Boy Advance when it only had 4 years to itself before the DS came out, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Even with a lot of them being SNES ports, there were just a lot of quality games coming out all the time on this. So definitely a system to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I have such fond memories of the Game Boy Advance, and I guess just I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention the names. Advance Wars is so much fun, and Fire Emblems are really cool too. Those are just two fantastic strategy series.
Yeah,
and they're Game Boy Advance versions. Well, not the first ones in the world, were both the first for America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And also too, worth mentioning, even after the DS came out, Game Boy Advance was still getting games. Like Warioware Twisted came out towards the end of its life cycle. Polarium on DS got its sequel on Game Boy Advance for some reason. There was a lot of good stuff late cycle in GBA as well. So yeah, that system just kept on chugging.
Yeah, go find yourself a Game Boy Advance. And get playing.
Dig it out of your closet. Dig it out of your attic. Dust it off. Hopefully there's no battery acid in there from the last time you played it. Grab some GBA games. A lot of them are very cheap now. Some of them, are not. For example, I would love Ninja 5.0, but I'm never going to own that game ever. But there's plenty of reasonable priced ones. And I think, and what we talked about today is honestly just, is such a small number.
And this is mostly like our favorites too. I'm sure you
right.
guys have your favorites too. Share them in the comments.
Please let us know. What your favorite GBA games are. If you guys have any recommendations, stuff that we didn't talk about. If we
missed
here.
Any huge ones.
Yeah, I mean we all had so many that we could to talk about that we just couldn't possibly talk about all of them. So, so with that being said, unless anyone else has anything else to say.
It's been fun.
All right. Yeah. Well, happy 20th anniversary Game Boy Advance.
Happy birthday, Game Boy.
Yeah. Happy birth. And thank you guys for listening. If you would like to see more from us, as you know, we're on YouTube and on Stitcher and Anchor and all that fun stuff. We also have the Nintendo Era website, which is nintendoera.wordpress.com. Still chugging. And coming up soon is E3. We're recording this right before E3 just to have something fun. So definitely stay tuned because we will have our E3 sort of wrap-up episode coming up. So, until next...
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to give an extra special thank you to Steve, Gartooth, for guesting.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Gar.
Close us out, Clay.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you again, everybody, and take care. Enjoy E3.
Peace.